Hello and welcome to A Little Bit of Genius, a podcast series run by Nord Anglia education students. My name is Amber. I'm a senior at Nord Anglia International School in Rotterdam. Back when we could play sports in school, I played soccer and was on the swim team.
And my name is Alex. I'm also a senior at Nord Anglia International School in Rotterdam. We're excited to be hosting today's episode with our special guest, Marlon Devonish. Now, if you didn't know, Mr. Devonish is one of Britain's most decorated male athletes with 18 medals, including a gold medal from the 2004 Athens Olympics. He is now an elite performance coach at the British International School in Shanghai, Puxi. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So we first wanted to ask you, when did you first start running track?
I was very athletic as a child, so I was involved with a lot of sports. And I did, of course, athletics. Football was probably my second sport, basketball, tennis, all the sports you probably have taken part in and participated in at your schools. So when I first got into athletics, it was when I was 16 years old. So I was a little bit later than what you probably would think of. I went down, it was a PE teacher, Mr. Coleman and Miss Ryan told me that I should go down to the local athletics track, and that's where my athletics journey started.
Nice. When you first started running track, what was your favorite event to compete in?
I always loved the sprints and I enjoyed the long jump, a little bit of high jump as well. I did take part in a little cross country when I was a lot younger. As I said before, I took part in lots of different events and different sports, and I was a sporty kid at school, and I couldn't wait to get involved with anything sporty and challenge myself and have competitions in that environment.
When you started running track, did you know you would want to dedicate your life to it?
That's a good question, actually, Alex. I didn't have much direction in my life at the time, if I'm honest, and I was looking for something to do. Something about me. I didn't want to just be probably a nobody is probably the wrong word, but someone who just floated through life and didn't want to achieve anything. So it was always something I had, and it was always an ambition. So I did a few races at the end of the season. And I thought I ran pretty well. I didn't win all the races, a mixed bag of performances, lots of lessons learned. My coach was telling me you need to do it this way and you need to do it that way, just basic coaching skills that I didn't know about. And strangely enough, there's a magazine called Athletics Weekly in the UK. And in Athletics Weekly, they publish the area rankings. So I thought, right, let me see what my age group are doing so I can see where I sit in the rankings. So I had a look at the magazine and my name was in the rankings. It's like, this is strange. I've just started this sport. I wasn't at the top, I was probably towards the bottom, but I thought, wait, I've just started. I think I'm quite good at this. And that was a real intrinsic motivation for me. So that's how it got. That's how my motivation, how things started to develop and my love for the sport began.
Yeah, awesome. And during that time, who supported you the most? Was there any coaches or someone who just really motivated you?
Or your family members?
Yeah, so family members. So I've got quite a lot of family members. My parents tried to financially support me. It was very difficult because they didn't have much money. And there was a company, a welding company that my dad knew. It was called Argonaut, and they gave me some money to pay for trainers, spikes. The newspaper supported me. We didn't have the podcasts or the Twitter or all the different social media we have now, but definitely I did feel there was some support. And then I started building a little bit of a name for myself locally, which then encouraged me further as well. And I found I've got an identity now that I was the sprinter.
And so what was your biggest inspiration when you started running? What inspired you the most?
Yeah. So what inspired me the most? So I remember watching the '92 Barcelona Olympics and an athlete called Linford Christie. So your older listeners would recognise him, especially from the UK. And he's a bit of a stature. Everyone knew who he was. And I remember him winning the Olympics. I'm thinking, he's from the UK. It's possible. And it was a massive eye-opener for me. Another fan of mine is Carl Lewis. So he was an American athlete. Again, some younger guys may not recognize him, but you could Google him and find out who he was. So these are athletes I watched. So the actual beauty and finesse. So think of a ballet dancer and how easy and smooth and the massive explosiveness as they jump. and it's done with such finesse and ease. So Carl Lewis had this kind of elegance when he was running, and I thought he just looked so easy. Muhammad Ali was someone I looked to. So my dad loved boxing, so I sat down and watched with my dad and with the boxing. And then, of course, there's Usain Bolt, which I raced against many times, and been an absolute honour to be part of him breaking records and be there, competed against him. But yeah, there's lots of things that and people I've experienced through my athletic career.
And you said at the beginning you were really good at sports when you were a kid. At school, was your favorite class physical education, or did you also have other aspirations? Or did you already know from the beginning that I want to be an athlete?
Yeah, so I didn't know I wanted to be an athlete. I'm a very creative, artistic type of person, and that's what I lean towards. So art was probably my second love. Something even to this day I still have an ambition to pursue.
Yeah. Do you think there's an important difference between competing in team events like relays versus more like individual events where you're just by yourself?
Yes, there is a difference, a unique difference. And so I'm trying to explain this through the individual 100. So the individual 100 meters and 200 meters, there's a certain mindset that's required, right? So if I was competing against you guys, and I would have my masseuse who would massage my legs, I'd have a physiotherapist, I'd have a nutritionist, I'd have my coach, I might have a strength and conditioning coach as well. This would be you could argue, my entourage. That would be to support me, and I would be more open, and I'd be more vulnerable, and I'll talk about they'd see my weaknesses and see my strengths, right? My limiting factors, these things that were stopping me from performing, or this is really good, we need to work on that. And I'll be more open to that, right, as an individual. So if I was going to compete against you, I'm not going to tell you those things, right? Because then you would know, right, he's not had a very good training session, he's been injured. That's only going to encourage you to beat me. So these are things that I'd hold to myself. But in a 4x1 relay, if I have any injuries, any pains or stiff lights, things I have to tell my fellow athletes. If I'm going to get the best out of the quality of everybody, we need to talk about it, be completely open, we need to trust, so there needs to be that vulnerability, and that alone will bring the camaraderie, because look, I've put myself on the line for you, you put yourself on the line for me, and this is exactly the mindset that happened back in 2004, and we only won by 0.01 of a second, so you're talking the smallest margin in athletics.
And then you said you had your entourage. And
Yeah.
what was like training for the Olympics? Did you have to make any sacrifices, such as diet or any other things that you couldn't do anymore because you were training hard?
Yes, there was lots of times when I had my friends, family as well, would be going out, enjoying themselves, and I've got a flight so my flight's at 7 o'clock in the morning. That means I need to be up at 5. So that means I need to get to the airport. So I'd love to go out, but I can't go out. So I've got to compete. So for me to go out, then silly things, but those stuff. So that was one aspect. I do love a dessert. So so in the winter months, the training. So I was training 6 days a week. So it might be important to the listeners. 6 days a week, and I trained twice on 3 of those days. So it'd be a weight session, a track session, or circuits, or some kind of activity, and it would vary whether it would be more difficult, easy, medium, or easy. So on occasion I could burn the candle at both ends in regards to have a dessert, because the workload was so high. I would burn the calories anyway. I can give you another story back. So I was training with another athlete, Tyson Gay. So he was the second fastest man in the world behind Usain Bolt. The second fastest man in the world is not usually talked about, but I trained with him. It wasn't the workload I could cope with. The intensity went sky high, because these guys were running so fast, and I wasn't used to the running like that, and my body started to break down. And I was like, because how are you guys doing it? And then I started watching what they were doing in and out of training, and they were chomping on a protein bar, they were sipping their protein drinks, they were constantly reloading and looking after themselves, branched chain amino acid, which is part of the building blocks of protein, trying to replenish the muscles, and they're constantly, I was like, okay, I need to do this, right? So got batch tested, so to make sure that what I was taking was legal. So the last thing I want to do is take supplements that were illegal and get myself in trouble. So get it batch tested, got it cleared by UK Athletics to make sure that Yes, you can take that. It's batch tested, it's trusted, we're fine. And then I would start taking these supplements and I'll feel not 100%, but rather than feeling that 70%, I'm feeling that 90+%. That means I can compete and train at the level that these guys were training with. And I felt like that was a key point for me. And you start to realize, especially when you get a little bit older and you don't replenish as quickly as you would when you were younger, my diet started getting really, really, really down to the point of being really sharp.
You're tuned in to A Little Bit of Genius. On this episode, our students are chatting with British sprinter Marlon Devonish, who won gold at the 2004 Athens Olympics. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode.
Did you ever sustain any major injuries while you're playing? I'm coming off of knee surgery, so I know how hard it is to get back in and get back to sports after something like that.
Yeah, so I have had not major injuries because I was a setup. I've been told I was quite robust, but I think it's looking back now, it was part of being sensible and not pushing. I guess when a knee injury or something, or it's a collision, I guess the good thing about athletics is there's very little body contact. So you get injured because you're not listening to your body. So I was very intuitive with my body, but I didn't have really bad injuries. So in regards to your knee injury though, let's talk about it.
I tore my ACL playing soccer and I had surgery last November. So it's been almost a year. And I was working with physical therapy to try to get back into sports. But unfortunately, due to Corona, there is no sports to get back to currently. So I've just been trying to keep up with stuff on my own. And we actually will talk to you about that. With Corona, how are you staying active and making sure you're still getting out there? And you're a coach now. How are you making sure your kids are getting out and doing stuff?
Yeah, so I was developing challenges. So 1 minute challenge burpees, how many you can do, press ups, sit ups, different types of activities, eye and ball coordination, rolling up a sock because you couldn't go outside, all these different types of things. So we did our best to be creative as possible and keeping the kids active. So the last thing I did a presentation about resilience, talk about how to be resilient in these times. It's really important you look after your well-being as much as you don't want to do sport. Even just a minute of activity can de-stress you. That's what we did over the COVID-19 situation back in the UK.
And you joined British International School of Puxi as an elite performance coach. What does that title entail?
Yes, so it's an interesting title, right? Yeah, so I do teaching here at the school. I look after the ECA program, athletic program here as well. I guess there's this vision of me walking along the corridors with flowers thrown before my feet, like I'm coming in, the Olympic champion has arrived, which is not the case. I'm just like anybody. I'm just like you. I'm just like your principal. I'm just like all the other people in at the school.
And then going back to the Olympics and to your whole sprinting career, when did you decide that it was time to depart from competitions and go into coaching and your job as an elite performance coach?
So in 2012, I got an injury shortly before the trials, and I didn't make the team for the first time in that period. And I thought, right, I'm 36. I could probably live like a monk and focus on myself and not have an outside life, right? And do all the nutrition and probably be the sixth or be part of the squad in the relay team in the future. Bearing in mind, I've made the team and medaled 18 times. So it came, right, do I want to put all that hard work in just to be part of the team and have the best seat in the stadium? No. And I've already got a bag of medals. So why am I doing it? Yeah, I mean that in the utmost respect. So I've got my Olympic gold by then. I've got an individual world title, European, Commonwealth golds, numerous times over. Do I need to? I'm just trying to stay into the sport. So that was my decision to go, you know what, let me step back. And it seemed as an easy and natural progression to get into coaching. And then this opportunity came up where I'm sharing my coaching, my business skills. I was already working with children, going to schools, doing talks. To tying all those three skills together, I thought it would be a good opportunity. And that's what's happening here at the moment. So it's been really exciting for me.
And now that you're retired from competing, is there anything that you miss about it or like wish you could go back to?
There's sessions that we did. You'd wake up in the morning and you'd remember and you'd go, oh no, I've got the 6 300s, and your heart would sink because you know you're going to be in so much lactic acid and so much pain. And you get to the track and you put your bag down and you look at your bag at the end of the session, and I'll be lying on my bag on the hard, dirty floor, gasping for air. I hated those days, but at the same time, I love them because you challenge yourself to the absolute maximum. So I do miss that, despite it being horrible and such difficult sessions. I do miss that camaraderie, being in the team and finishing and looking at each other. Oh, that was hard. That was so hard, but we finished it, guys. Everyone finished it. We did well, and having the love, and you build that kind of real close friendship that way. So I do miss those times.
Overall, when you look back at your whole career, every competition that you have been to, how was the 2004 Olympic different from everything else?
So I went to 3 Olympics. So the first Olympics was in Sydney. Second Olympics was in Athens when we won, and I went to the Beijing Olympics as well. So before I had any Olympic experience, right? So I walk into the stadium in Sydney in 2000, and I go, wow, there's 110,000 people in the first round. This is the Olympics, right? And Athens, to answer your original question, it's so hard. I've asked this question, has been asked thousands of times. It's so hard to be able to express and show you what it felt to win an Olympic gold medal. Going on to Beijing was just a complete spectacle. The stadium was amazing. The money that was spent and the infrastructure and how everything worked was absolutely amazing, and very proud. I didn't perform particularly well, but I remember the setup and everything being very well organized. Very proud to be part of Beijing and be part of the Olympics. Yeah. So all of them, the 3 Olympics, are all special in their own different way.
When you're competing in these giant stadiums for thousands of people, do you think that pressure of being like watched and like broadcast on TV, do you think that helps or hinders you with your races?
That's another good question. So yes, it is daunting, but at the same time, I'm a bit of a performer. So I like the people to watch and come and see me. So you see other people preparing for their Olympic Games, right? So you see them walk and they go underneath the stadium and they walk and they're like gods as they walk, really proud and strong. Like, I'm going to compete amazingly, right? Do you look at them and think, oh, he looks like he's or she's going to, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing their performance, right? And then they walk in the stadium and then they come out the other side and they're biting their nails and they're looking around. Yeah, so you can imagine. You get overwhelmed. You feel really, I'm at the Olympics. I'm in the shape of my life. I feel great. But going through the procedure and getting onto the track, you're seeing people, oh my goodness, and get overwhelmed by the experience, and then they don't perform as well as they can do. And then you get the flip side of that as well. You get the people walking in like so nervous. They're sweating before they go into the call-up room, and then they come on the other side and they're proud, like, I'm ready to compete. Yeah, and they've got this aura around them, and they perform out their skin because all of a sudden they're performing. They've got thousands of people. They're nervous. That's a fact. Everyone's nervous, but that nervous is how you interpret that nervousness. Is it I'm nervous because I'm excited, I want to do well, or am I nervous because of the occasion?
If I would have done what you would have done, Mr. Devonish, I would be relieved to be able to eat normal food again, because I cannot survive on that. Like just cake, like sugar, I cannot live without it.
Well, these are one of the things that we have to take out of my diet. So when I was competing, I did my best to stay away from sugar. At times, I did have sugar. I'm not going to lie. I have my weaknesses as well, but more often than not, I knew my competitors weren't doing it, so it was imperative that I did it. So on your marks, get set, go.
So do you have any final words for like aspiring athletes, people who are just so excited to start competing again once we can, or anything like that?
At the moment, I guess we can. So those that are not able to compete, we're not allowed to compete externally at the moment. So we're having in-house competitions. So take this opportunity to work on those things that you're not so good at, and take these opportunities to learn about yourself. So then when you go out and compete against, then you have a more clearer. So clarity is really important. their best to help you. And right at the top of the list, have fun, enjoy yourselves, right? It's really important to have a laugh and a giggle at the right times, right? So I know teachers don't like it too much. So yeah, enjoy yourself, and you should enjoy your school experience. And there's obviously a lot to learn, and I can't say much more than that. So anyway, but thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Amber, Alex, some great questions, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for listening. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want a little bit more genius, subscribe to this podcast.
To find out more about Nord Anglia, head to www.nordangliaeducation.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.